Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So you're getting a bird's eye view. We're sitting in our kind of back garden, and underneath an apple tree.
Yeah.
Not sure if you can see all the blossoms that are on the tree, but there's probably going to be lots of apples. And when we moved in December, the tree was still producing apples in December.
Yeah.
And they were huge and super, super tasty.
I made apple crumble.
Made apple crumble and offered it to the Lord. And you can see whenever we get garlands, we hang them on the tree to just, thank Mr. Apple Tree for all his service. And I just wanted to give a shout out to our dear friend Sally Webb.
Yeah.
Mataji, she was in Watford today on the Harinam, and we met for the first time, kind of face to face. Although I've seen her before, but I didn't realize that was her. So, Hare Krishna, Sally. Thank you so much for meeting up and being so gracious and so kind and saying so many nice things. So, really happy to have you with us on Bhagavatam Bites and other channels. So, okay, so we're reading today
Canto 4, Chapter 2, Text 31.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
And by the way, today is Lord Nrsingadev's appearance day.
Yes.
Jai Nrsingadev Bhagavan Ki Jai. And we're kind of in between programs. Had the morning program, then the afternoon at the Watford for Harinam, and then going back for the drama, and of course breakfast prasadam in the evening at the manor. Okay, Hare Krishna.
Text 31. The Vedas give the eternal regulative principles for auspicious advancement in human civilization, which have been rigidly followed in the past. The strong evidence of this principle is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is called Janardhan, the well-wisher of all living entities. This is still Bhrigu Muni in his cursing.
Counter
curse. Purport. In the Bhagavad Gita, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, has claimed that he is the father of all living entities regardless of form. There are 8,400,000 different species of life forms, and Lord Krishna claims that he is the father of all. Because the living entities are parts and parcels of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they are all sons of the Lord. And for their benefit, because they are hovering under the impression that they can lord it over material nature, the Vedas are given to them for their guidance. Therefore, the Vedas are called Apaurushaya, for they are not written by any man or demigod, including the first living creature, Brahma. Brahma is not the creator or author of the Vedas. He is also one of the living beings in this material world. Therefore, he does not have the power to write or speak the Vedas independently. Every living entity within this material world is subject to 4 deficiencies. He commits mistakes, he accepts one thing for another, he cheats, and he has imperfect senses.
So accepting one thing for another, that's generally in this list is categorized as illusioned.
The Vedas, however, are not written by any living creature within this material world. Therefore, they are said to be Apaurushaya. No one can trace out the history of the Vedas. Of course, modern human civilization has no chronological history of the world or the universe, and it cannot present actual historical facts older than 3,000 years. But no one has traced out when the Vedas were written, because they were never written by any living being within this material world. All other systems of knowledge are defective because they have been written or spoken by men or demigods who are products of this material creation. But Bhagavad Gita is a Purushaya, for it was not spoken by any human being or any demigod of this material creation. It was spoken by Lord Krishna, who is beyond the material creation. It was spoken. Oh, I said that, didn't I? So that is accepted by such stalwart scholars as Sankaracharya, not to speak of other acharyas such as Ramanujacharya and Madhavacharya. Sankaracharya has accepted that Narayan and Krishna are transcendental, and in Bhagavad Gita also Lord Krishna has established Aham Sarvasa Prabhavo Mata Sarvam Pravartate. I am the origin of everything, and everything emanates from me. This material creation, including Brahma and Shiva and all the demigods, has been created by him, for everything has emanated from him. He also says that the purpose of all the Vedas is to understand him. Vedas cha sarva aham eva Vedya. He is the original Vedavit, or knower of the Vedas, and Vedanta Krit, or compiler of Vedanta. Brahma is not the compiler of the Vedas.
Yeah.
So Prabhupada is really stressing that that Brahma is not the origin or creator of the Vedas, which can be is misunderstood, because just he's got 4 heads at best, and he created this material world. But as Prabhupada says, he is actually one of the living beings in the material world. It's like a post, I believe, he holds, so he's obviously highly qualified, but he came after the fact. Like in the beginning they say there was the word.
Yes.
And he came after that word or fact. That's very important to remember. It doesn't take away from his qualifications and respect and seniority we shouldn't be derided, but he isn't of the he is of the creation, but not the one who did it.
Yeah, so Lord Brahma is what's known as Jiva Tattva, which is like us. He is a created living entity, and although he is a sub-creator, he's more like an engineer, because he engineered the material elements that came from the original creation using the knowledge that came from the Vedas. And I think what Prabhupada is trying to stress on by using this word apurushaya is that the Vedas, the knowledge of the Vedas is beyond time and space, is beyond this creation, is transcendental. So therefore, a created living entity within this world did not create the Vedas. So that's kind of the point that I was getting, that Lord Brahma is a jiva, a living entity, although he's the most exalted living entity, but he's still a living entity. So therefore, he didn't create the Vedas. The Vedas were revealed to him by Krishna, and he utilized the knowledge of the Vedas in order to create, yes, as I said, a sub-creator. All the elements were already there. He just compiled them together. So more of an engineer rather than a creator.
Yeah, Prabhupada uses that word sometimes, engineer.
But oftentimes he is considered the creator.
Right.
Yeah.
But he didn't, he used like scientists, they use the elements that are there, and then they try to dismiss the person who put the elements there for their H2O and this and that and the other.
Yes. Yeah.
But no, forget all that. But who put the water there and the air there and this and the earth and this to create your amazing concoctions? Who put it all there? That's the point.
Yes. So he's a sub-creator. secondary creator, I think might be the term, and
Yes.
an engineer, basically. In the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam is established, Tene Brahma Rida, that the Supreme Absolute Truth, the Personality of Godhead, instructed Brahma in the Vedic knowledge through his heart. Therefore, the evidence that Vedic knowledge is free from the defects of mistakes, illusions, cheating, and imperfection is that it is spoken by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Janardana, and has thus been followed from time immemorial, beginning from Brahma. The Vedic religion or the principles of the Vedas have been followed by the highly cultured population of India since time immemorial. No one can trace out the history of Vedic religion. Therefore, it is Sanatana. And any blasphemy against the Vedas is calculated to be atheism. The Vedas are described as Setu, which means a bridge. If one wants to attain his spiritual existence, one has to cross an ocean of nations. The Vedas are the bridge by which to cross such a great ocean. That's powerful. I don't remember hearing that explanation before. We hear the Vedas are the I think the cool breezes that fill the sails of the ship by which we cross the ocean. But to hear Veda is Setu, which means bridge, and it bridges us over the ocean by giving us that knowledge by which we can pass through the ocean of ignorance, the ocean of nescience. That's very powerful. Very nice.
Next paragraph. This is a long purport. The Vedas describe how to divide the human race into 4 divisions according to quality and working capacity. Now there's a helicopter. Random.
There's our little friend over there.
Yeah, look
A
at
little
him.
Robin Redbreast.
It's a little friendly Robin Redbreast that comes to this garden. It's so cute. Now he's on the grass. Oh. He's a bit like scraggly though. He must be like 100 years old in bird years. Alright, the Vedas describe how to divide the human race into 4 divisions according to quality and working capacity. This is a very scientific system, and it is also called Sanatan, for no one can trace out its history, and it has no dissolution. No one can stop the system of Varna and Ashram, or the castes and divisions. For example, whether or not one accepts the name Brahmana, there is a class in society which is known as the intelligent class, and which is interested in spiritual understanding and philosophy. Similarly, there is a class of men who are interested in administration and in ruling others. In the Vedic system, these martially spirited men are called Kshatriyas. Similarly, everywhere there is a class of men who are interested in economic development, business, industry and money making. They are called Vaishyas. And there is another class who are neither intelligent nor martially spirited nor endowed with the capacity for economic development, but who simply can serve others. They are called Shudras, or the labourer class. This system is Sanatan. It comes from time immemorial, and it will continue in the same way. There is no power in the world which can stop it. Therefore, since this Sanatan Dharma system is eternal, one can elevate himself to the highest standard of spiritual life by following the Vedic principles. That's quite powerful words, isn't it? This system it comes from time immemorial, it will continue in the same way, and that there is no power in the world which can stop it. So my understanding, this is in the modern day perverted caste system. This is the original roots of that, if that makes sense. But that's a modern day interpretation, which has caused a lot of inequality and injustice, really. But here we see, because this is coming from the Vedas, which are not of this material world and which are eternal, it is an injunction, or it is a system, as Prabhupada says, therefore that cannot be stopped. It's always there. It's just how it's misused or applied may change. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So Prabhupada explains that in one sense it's a system. I mean, it may, like you said, may not be functioning properly, but there's always these divisions in society. There are people who are the artisans, the laborer class. There are those who are the farmers and money makers, the economists. Then there are those who are the administrators or the rulers or the leaders or the military people. And then there's the philosophers and the teachers, the educators. So these four classes always exist. You can see them even in society now. People don't necessarily act according to the system, but the system, they fit into it nevertheless. So, does that sound right?
Yeah.
Last paragraph. It is stated that formerly the sages followed this system. Therefore, to follow the Vedic system is to follow the standard etiquette of society. But the followers of Lord Shiva, who are drunkards, who are addicted to intoxicants and sex life, who do not bathe and who smoke ganja, are against all human etiquette. The conclusion is that persons who rebel against the Vedic principles are themselves the evidence that the Vedas are authoritative, because by not following the Vedic principles they become like animals. Interesting. Such animalistic persons are themselves evidence of the supremacy of the Vedic regulations. Interesting. So, what I'm getting from this is Prabhupada is a terminology, I can't remember it now, but where something that's opposite from the rule proves the rule. So the point here is that when you see people who aren't following and you see the way they're acting, you realize the power of the principle of following and acting according to the rule. So like that. So the Vedas teach low-class people are proof of Vedic regulations. Yeah. So those who are, like sometimes speak about, the whole thing. Vedic culture would be that a young man and a young woman would be connected by the parents at a very young age, and then their marriage would be, fixed or matched or ordained. And in the Western culture, we could criticize that. Meanwhile, many of them have remained married, and there is no idea of divorce. Now, there are certain things you could argue around that, but at the same time, for young ladies to be fixed in marriage, at an early age, saves them also a lot of depression, anxiety, and so many things like that. Of course, in the modern day, many of these things are, again, abused. It's a system that gets abused, unfortunately, but the principle of it is not incorrect. That's the point. And we see that when that principle isn't followed, you get a lot of degradation in the modern age that's just become standard and commonplace and normal and accepted as the way it is, but that's because we're not following the proper system. That's the point.
Yeah, I think we've shared this before, but like my one of my grandmothers, she was married like in that way,
arranged marriage,
very young. She was walked around, her dad held her around the fire, which might sound a bit forced, in the modern day, but she was that young. But then she didn't obviously go and live with the boy and the in-laws until she was much older, but it was just understood. And then you conduct yourself in a certain way because from a woman's, especially that culture point of view, you're already connected,
for.
to a man, and then you behave in a certain way. It's this kind of shelter, it's safety as well, to have that peace of mind. Obviously, it may not be understood so well in the modern day, and may feel we've got no freedom or liberties like that. But they're both now passed away, my grandparents. But yeah, they were together to ripe old age.
Easily 60, 70 years.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, and it may seem like there's no freedom.
Right, I know.
But then what is all your freedom giving you? It gives you, unwedded interactions, unwanted progeny. So much distress and anxiety.
And just that, the anxiety of, like we were just discussing today, just someone going through some stuff, and just that anxiety because they're of a certain age, coming up to a certain age, and
unmarried.
There's
that's a lot of it.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll finish here. Thank you very much, everyone.
Yes.
Please remember to like,
comment,
subscribe,
and share.
And yes, please do share, so that more people can be reached out to and touched and inspired. And again, thank you very much, Sally, for your for your association today.
As in, I say, I didn't meet you, but yes.
We will meet again. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.